to find the ball. What is the ball?
You're live.
Wait. I changed the melody. It's an newest introduction from now on.
This melody works too, so it's okay.
Sarita is always faster than me. I don't know how she's doing this. Okay. No, guardar no. It say like guardar video. No, compartir.
Beautiful. We have people watching. Kate is here. Sarita is here. Yes,
oh,
go on, Kate.
That's great. Like, ask.
Go ahead, Kate.
We're watching you. We are waiting for you. We add drama. Late.
Late. Andrew
will the drum set
soon. Oh. For those who's wondering.
Yeah, Andrew will join in yeah, Andrew will come, like, we're putting here, and it will be soon with us.
Yes. So stepping is a kind of Afro-American almost body percussion in a way. But it's very confusing because a lot of European countries are using step or step dance or step dance or stepping as a name for tap dance, as a translation for it. And a lot of people says that tap dance shouldn't be translated like other types of dance styles. Like hip hop is not translated,
no.
Ballet is not translated, and tap dance has so many names. So it's a big confusion there. Like in Norway, it's called step dance, and a lot of people is calling it by mistake stepping, but stepping is a completely different type of dance. So one day we will all make a big protest, so it's called tap dance everywhere in the world. That's next on the agenda.
Oh, I forgot something. What is my light? It's like, it's something weird here. Now. Sorry.
Yes. Ta-da! So you can see some, in certain movies, there are actually scenes with stepping. They do it a lot in college, I know, or several colleges has stepping as a course. Stepovani. Did I say that right?
I will not pronounce it, just in case. We call it claque here. It's horrible. Yeah, I'm agree too. Let's do a protest for this. Let's not.
I see so many people talk about this, and yes. I agree. But you know, when it already have existed for maybe in European countries more than 60 years, it's hard to change something.
To tap in Italy, yeah.
Tap, yeah. Well, at least you have tap.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
It's a thing.
So, Steph, what are we talking about before Andrew comes?
In fact, it was not called tap dance before. It was calling like just dance. But it's like too much back. Like, I will stop there. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Let's go. Yeah, Andrew is not here. He will come in 20 minutes-ish, something like this. Mm-hmm. And we decide, instead of moving the time and starting later, we decided it was nice to talk only Iselin and me for a while, because we started this thing together. And I think it's nice for new people that is engaging in this tap talks to know how they started, and also with things related with the business side. And then suddenly, like, the shape of this conversation started like changing and putting this way. I think it's nice how things went. You go, Iselin. You explain how we started.
So 9 weeks ago, because we had 1 week break. 9 weeks ago, all of this lockdown happened. There's no tap classes. What to do, right? So I engaged with Estefanía because she was gonna come to Norway to have some summer course, and that got, of course, canceled. So I engaged with her to have her give my students some exercises, and I was planning like to try and give my students a bit of everything now that we have the chance. Instead of being in the studio, we could talk about things too. So I was already thinking to give them like a history lesson. I can't speak. Lesson. Okay. Yeah, my husband Alexis, he gave them like a music theory lesson. And when I told Estefanía that I was going to do the history, she said, "I want to be in on that." And that's how it started. We did the first 2 episodes talking about history and very just simple chronological important names that shaped tap dance history, not like digging very deep into things, but just showing you a superficial way of how you can see the lineage of tap dance. So that's why we started the 2 first episodes.
Yeah, I think also we had before these 2 episodes, we did like a small conversation with her students, and we started just talking. You and me. I remember like we were talking like, that's fun. We should keep that thing too. It was
we talked about how to find your sound and what to work on while you're in, lockdown and these kind of things, like a short conversation on Zoom we had.
Yeah, I think that was also, for me, was the turning point. Like, even we decide to engage on theory and history for students, that was a thing too. Like, suddenly, I don't know for you, but I was not used to put in front of a camera and talking and saying things. It's like, that was new for me.
It's a new way. I mean, everybody probably has learned so much about technology and how to do things online and these kind of things during this time that you never had imagined that would happen at all. Okay, let's see now. Somebody's in the waiting room.
Is it? Wait! Ta-da! Just 10 minutes? You're fast!
Made it.
Do like this now.
But then you need to wait. We were talking.
Okay.
No. Joking.
Like, go wait in the corner.
Go wait.
Like now. He's here.
He's here.
Oh my God.
I had a rolling that Andrew is coming soon. Now I change it. He is here.
Oh man, we made it. Wow.
Then we were doing like just explaining a little bit how this thing happened and why we are here, because maybe there's people like engaging right now in this space, and I think it's nice to know how it was built.
Yeah.
Then we talk how we started, and then we're going to all the things that we talk in this 9 weeks. And Iselin has the list.
I have the list.
Oh boy.
So, I mean, we decided also to kind of keep this format as an open conversation with everybody who wants to join, because we already checked out what was going on, and we wanted to do something that invites the people to join. We see that it's a lot of different formats that has been out there, and we love that it's such a great variety of what's been going on during this lockdown. And you have different types of interviews that are very nice, and you have different types of podcasts or classes or everything. I mean, during this period, everybody has really been putting their share out there, and it doesn't matter where you live. You can take classes from somebody who's in Los Angeles or somebody who's in Russia. I mean, it's like, it's crazy what's going on, and it's lovely. It's like you can take whatever class you want, and you can listen to whatever lecture or interview or conversation that you want. And this is a great thing. So we felt that we wanted to do something that's directed towards the European community, and something that is open, feel comfortable for people. It's a safe space to ask whatever you're wondering about. Things that maybe other people don't talk about. And that's why we have been through a lot of topics. We already mentioned that we started with like a bit superficial history image to get a starting point. And the episode 3, where Andrew joined us, was about the top 3 things you need to know about tap dance history. And I think that has been a thread through all of the topics that we have. What Andrew pointed out there has been like the foundation of every talk that we have had, because he talked about that everything is about people, everything has variance, and some things are lost forever.
I think also, now I understand like you are in this side, Iselin is in this. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
I think it's nice if you want to share how you wanted to be part of this thing and like how this connection happened.
Oh, friendship. I think I like texted you or something.
Yeah. But
and we
people
were
doesn't know.
I saw,
people is not in the conversations.
Yeah, no, it was really, I don't know, very organic, very like not formal. I saw that you guys were doing, were hosting this talk, and the people that you had attracted, like the folks who were showing up, were different than folks who were coming to other things, and the format was very, very chill and not so like, I don't know, just not so formal.
Yeah, it's not an interview.
I felt like especially for folks who are in Europe who might not have context for what happens in the States, or you know what the vibe of the scene is like in New York or LA or Chicago, or like just on the ground, that maybe the experience that I've had could be beneficial, like could be a good offering.
Sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I texted you. I was like, can I come on your show?
That's great.
And that was pretty much it.
But
yeah,
that's the thing that it's interesting. Like it's when you have like friendships, people, you build this kind of things. Like it's about people. Ta-da! Just saying that.
Yeah, it was really easy.
Hmm.
You didn't ask me for a proposal. I didn't have to audition. There was
we can do that thing easily. Like
no, I just with me, Estefanía turned green now.
We turn green?
Yeah, your foot. No, okay, it looks okay on the. Okay, it's just me then.
Okay, technology is not didn't have nothing with me. I'm fine.
I guess.
Okay.
I guess it's.
Looks good here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this sentence for me like really works a lot. Like find your people.
Yeah.
It's like sorry, because we're talking about people, friendship, blah, blah, blah. I think it's interesting for everybody to find the people to be surrounded for.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's important. Everything, even in the business, right? It really boils down to some sort of relationship. Like if you text someone or if you phone someone, do people actually phone people anymore? Does that happen? Okay, good. We have one.
No.
Two, maybe. Like if you phone someone, do they phone you back? Right? If they phone you back, then there's at least some level of respect, something that's there that will allow for trust to bloom, for a project to bloom, for something to happen that's more than well, at least at the baseline, that's a transaction that I will do this and you will give me this and we will be fine, and we handshake and we sign the contract and then we go. And then anything more than that is like super, super cool. But that's, you know, without somebody wanting or giving you the time of day to call you back, then none of that's going to happen.
Yeah. Then maybe we need to go to the thing. Like, we started to say some stuff, but maybe like,
Oh, are we diving in?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's something that we missed, Iselin. Like, we should.
No, I think, I mean, all of the talks are out there, and I think they are all connected. So today is also, we will connect back with different things that we talked about. So yeah. So let's go for it. Today's topic is
but somebody needs to say that thing. Me?
Yeah.
The business side of tap dancing. No, sorry.
Yes. There we go. Perfect introduction.
Oh wait, no, I did something. No, it's working. Okay, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us at Tap Talk.
Thank you for joining us. This is Tap Talk number 8. No, number 9. No, 7, 8, 8, 8. Okay.
8.
7, 8, 9, not the left.
We need music, man.
Business side of tap dancing.
Okay.
Some framework for that, like.
Yeah. Sure. We can. I think we can start by saying there seems so. The first gig that I ever got, I was 7 years old, so that was 1987. And it had nothing to do with tap dancing. It was we have a thing here called dinner theater, where people come, they have dinner. The waiters and waitresses, like all the people serving, are in the show. And so after dinner, you know, maybe 15 minutes before dinner is done, all the servers go, "Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed dinner. I have to go get ready for the show." And they run backstage, they change, and then you put on a whole theater show for the people. And so I was in A Christmas Carol. I was a random kid in A Christmas Carol.
Aww.
As my first gig, so I had nothing to do with tap dancing. But I've seen kind of the blooming of like the tap festival circuit, and this idea that seems to be very prominent, that like you can have a career as a tap dancer. Like there's some industry for tap dancing that tree number 2. Yes, no, I wasn't tree number 2. I was like boy number 1.
Oh, I was confused. What is that?
So it seems like there's language around like, okay, I'm gonna have my living as a tap dancer, and that I don't know if that's like the most helpful way to think about this thing. The way I've come to think about it is that there are a number of other industries that tap dancing fits in, and that it happens in tap dancing. And that tap dancing itself, like there's no real industry for tap dancing. And so I think that for me has been a really helpful framework, because then you're learning the rules of the theater industry, or the music industry, or the film and television industry, or the commercial dance school industry, or the not-for-profit world, or like or even, you know, the tap festival industry. Like it's a thing, but tap dancing is not an industry. Tap dancing is a craft work. Like that's something that you pursue whether you're getting paid for it or not, or you can.
Right. This.
Yeah. Put that up. That's a that's a quote.
What's that?
We can write it.
Yeah, we'll go back. We'll go. Video
Is a
replay.
craft, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
We're improving like this.
I'm evolving. Yeah, I'm evolving on this program.
I'm curious how much we can evolve in this thing.
There's a lot. I mean, like we can do like this too. Okay, I'll show.
Wow.
Oh, sweet.
I can do a lot of fancy things here. I can change the color of the background. They're all horrible, so I won't do that. But anyways,
nice.
Let's
Okay.
continue.
Let's continue. Sorry.
Quite all right. It's like, ooh, fancy stuff.
Fancy.
So we have like, yeah, go ahead.
No. Finish.
I mean, I'm just rambling at this point, but I think we have like I guess we have to say that like tap dancing can exist outside of industry. Like you can exist as someone who takes part in the craft with potentially zero transaction other than time. Right? But no human being that I know of can survive in this world right now without money. So once money comes into the picture, then you're dealing with like, are we going to use this craft as a trade, as like something that we take to the market and we trade on, or are we going to like not do that and trade on something else? You know, there was a cat I met in Maryland once. I can't remember his name. Maybe Bakari Wilder might know his name. But he was like a well-known local tap dancer. Like, you know, I'd been around all the quote unquote cats and thought I knew everybody, and this guy showed up and he was like, okay, you're one of the cats. I have no idea who you are. And the way his journey was like, he took a day job and he did a thing and he tap danced, and he looked at me and he said, you know what? I never had to take a gig that I didn't want to take. And I was like, oh, that's a very interesting way of navigating this thing. Because as artists and tap dancers, there's always a moment where, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but where we, you know, we might be tight one month, or like the gigs aren't coming in, and then a gig comes in and you're like, I don't know if I really want to do this gig, but in order for me to pay rent or, you know, groceries, like all the stuff on Maslow's triangle, you know, we often find ourselves in that corner, and there is sometimes in the scene there can be this kind of this vibe around, well, no, like don't do that. Like if you're a quote unquote real tap dancer, then tap dancing is all you do. Like you don't take a day job, you don't supplement, you don't find any other way of navigating. And everybody found some other way of navigating when all the work dried up. So I don't know necessarily like where that came from. You could probably find a few people in the older generations who were very, very stubborn and had kind of their ways about thinking about this. But I guess I land in this place where it's like, if you just want to deal with the craft work, deal with the craft work. If you want to trade on the craft work, trade on the craft work. Just know that those are two different things.
Mm.
They're related, but I think they're two different things.
Yeah. And I think, actually, in my opinion, I think it's healthy to don't go into the mindset that I'm going to earn my living from 100% being a tap dancer. If that happens, it's great. I mean, if no matter which direction, maybe you're teaching half the time, performing half the time, but if that happens, see it as a blessing. But I think it's healthy for people to not go into the mindset that that's what I'm going to do, because, as you say, when it dries out or whatever happens, then you have nothing to fall back on either. And like now, we're in a way in the lucky group, because entertainment will always be needed, and tap dance is a form of entertainment. And you can see, like, during this lockdown, what would life have been if people didn't have Netflix and all these things? That's entertainment. So in a way, we're blessed because we're working within a field that is always going to be needed. But that doesn't mean that we have work right now. So if you have absolutely nothing else to do than just perform, what happens when that disappears? And it can happen again. We can go into another lockdown. You never know what's going to come the next day. So the more healthy relationship you have to the craft, the better you will do, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's historical context for this, right? When quote unquote the work dried up, like if you ever watched the movie Tap, the scene in the movie Tap where Savion's character says something like, "You guys used to dance?" And then all the old guys are sitting around and like, "Bring him down front, bring him right down front." And this is Sammy's character says, like, "You see all these men here? All these guys were headliners, like they were famous people." And then the work dried up. And so what do you do? And the work dried up in the 50s and 60s in tap dance land on account, like, depending on who you talk to, right? On account of basically a shift in popular tastes, right? There wasn't a pandemic that happened for the work to dry up. There wasn't anything other than people said, "I don't think we like this anymore." And they started liking other things more than liking tap dancing. And you listen to what some of the old cats did during that time. They were tending bar, they were managing restaurants, they were managing theaters. Like, they went and they did whatever it is that they could because they had to. And there was nothing wrong with that. But I think for someone coming into the field, there is this, not necessarily an expectation, but there's almost like a model that says, hey, if you come up this way, like, you could do this for the rest of your life and thrive, not even survive, but like really be okay and comfortable. And there's just a lot of variance in the way people have actually done that. I don't think there's necessarily one way.
How you started?
Good question.
You mean with the business side?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Well, as I said, I've been like assisting and teaching since I was pretty young, but like my first official gig wasn't tap dancing either. It was this Christmas show that how do you call it in English? It's like a not a cabaret, but like yeah, it was a Christmas show
Like
with yeah, in a way, with some of Norway's, like, Norway's version of Frank Sinatra, very famous people, like comedians, singers, very good bunch, and I was only 14, and we were four girls that got hired to be the dancers of the show, and we were told to do this and this and this and this number, and you have to choreograph and you have to perform. And we had that for like 4 weekends before Christmas, 3 years in a row, I think we had. And that was like my first experience with really being thrown into everything of how to do this, how to see the business of it. I mean, it was really a steep learning curve for me, because these were top dogs. They knew exactly what to say, exactly how they wanted it, and it was a great learning experience of how to put on a show, how to work professionally. And I started tap dancing after that. So, but yeah, like business side of tap dancing came later, but I already kind of were an established business side in the dance world. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I knew. So yeah. Your turn.
That works. I don't remember my first gig.
3
I
years
think
old.
was, I don't think so. Like being paid the first, I think was also like a Christmas gig. We call it als pastorets. There's no cattle in this conversation for sure. Then nobody knows what that means. But it's like really common here to do this thing for Christmas. Yeah, but I think the thing that showed me this kind of job was like to being behind the scene, like what happened behind the scene, like people, how is engaging, how is doing the things. You go to the theater, you how you descargar, how you call that, like you put the material into the theater, you do the performance, you take the material, and then you go out. And then all this process going to the place that we rehearsal, taking all the things, like this kind of way. It's not just the performance of like all the things around. It's like, that's amazing. That's a different world. And that was, I decided, like, I want to do these things. And I think tap was not that late. I was learning tap in that point, I think. And yeah, the experiences like on business on tap, they're different. I did also like a performance inside of a museum. That was crazy. And
I think we all had that kind of crazy game.
I have one that is great. I don't have the picture,
on
but
the
I will
books
love it.
outside. Oh my!
I did one like this sea star tap dancing.
You were in the costume?
I wore a pea. I wore a chickpea with tap shoes once on TV.
A pea?
No.
Yeah, we were salad. One were tomato, one were banana, one were I were like this pea with three dots down. What was the last one? Was it carrot? I think.
Oh,
yes.
I want to be the carrot. No, sorry. I have another.
The gris was the carrot.
Oh.
Oh no.
But I think it's really nice people understand that it's not, once you learn tap, you're like, go into the thing. No. There's things that they're going on behind. And I think it's cute to mention them and saying, yes, I did that too. And I'm still alive and I'm surviving and I'm doing things.
I think it's
love
all
it.
about the learning
You don't
process.
want to see that. Okay?
I said, I think all of these like a bit awkward jobs and stuff, it's a bit of the learning process of the business side. Like without those experiences, you wouldn't be the same either. So
yeah, I think it's like, for me, it's nice. Like everybody should start that way. Like maybe not like a gig and not tap dancing, or if it's tap dancing, like, but like awkward things, then you understand oh, I prefer that, but maybe I need to do that because I need the money, blah, blah, blah. But everything is fine. Like, well.
But you also have to see this as everything is connected. Without these small, awkward jobs too, the arts wouldn't be that available for the audience. And we need the audience to survive, right? So all of these small that we feel maybe in young age is awkward, like dancing on malls, promoting your school or whatever, these kind of things, is for a purpose too. Without it, things wouldn't have been as they are today. So
yeah, so there's there is I don't know if it's helpful to like when you talk about industry, you talk about like the economics of all right, where to for like for music or for film and television or for theater or for a dance school or for a teacher, right? Where is your money coming from? Right? What's the flow, right? So that you can say, okay, if I'm a teacher, then like your students aren't the ones paying you. Like this place who hires you, unless you're doing something just direct to an audience. But the place that hires you is normally paying you. But your value for that place is the number of people that you can attract, right? Generally speaking, is the feedback that the students give the studio owner is like the best thing that you can have, because those people will start to follow you places. And that, today the development of your own audience, if you want to have like a solo career or like a career that you take wherever you go, the development of your own audience is actually really, really key. Careful.
Why are you stopping yourself?
Sorry. No. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
I think that moment just explained why this show is great, because anything can happen, slapping your own ass or whatever,
I have mosquitoes. I don't like it.
Sure, blame it on that. You have
no! I will not show it, but I have like 3 of them. Like,
okay, but now you continue. You pick the attention now. It's your turn.
Sure. I was thinking like to go to another point, for example. I don't know where we were talking because I had the mosquito and I like just disconnected.
Well, I think also something that we can talk a bit about is how do we come back from all of this, right? It affects the business side. That it's been a lockdown. It's not mosquito. COVID-19 and the lockdown has affected a lot of people and a lot of students and a lot of teachers. Maybe that's a topic to talk a bit about.
Maybe I have another one before that, because that's just like 3 months ago, and we talk like how we started on the business, but maybe how we started on the tap business.
I just don't show that.
Get.
That's great.
Oh no.
If only tap dancing was given
then. Sorry. Yeah. Maybe this, like beginnings of almost.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh my God. So yeah,
that's great. How we start on the business side, but on tap dancing.
Yes.
And yeah,
So go. You start.
Shoot. I don't know why I learned. Maybe it's the thing that I was looking like things that were happening here in Barcelona. Like all the teachers that I had, they were like performing, teaching, like everything. And I said like, all right, maybe that's a thing. Like if I want to be part of this business and this industry, maybe I need to play a little bit with everything. Then I think the first thing that came to me, I think was Basilio. The first thing. I think it was Basilio. Yeah. I'm saying like for me it was like so. Okay. He was my teacher, and one day he came to me like, "I have a gig. Do you want to perform with me?" Yo, yes. That was that simple. Yeah. And same thing with classes. Like suddenly somebody came to me like, "Do you want to teach this?" Yes. Like I was not questioning like what to do, and like it's related to tap, go. That was my beginnings. But I was so passionate. I think maybe too much. I don't know.
That's a keyword, I think. I mean, if it's meant to be, it's because you're passionate about it. Like that, because you're passionate about it, you follow your dream per se.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get into the business. You're passionate about this. You want to know more. You want to do more. That's how you get into any business.
Yep.
Yeah.
Burning for something. And
Yeah. Go ahead.
Who
Yeah.
goes?
Oh.
you mean twice over? Okay. No, I mean,
All the way.
yeah, about what? Like about how I got into tap business?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good question. It just happened. I mean, okay, as a kid, I dreamt about being a ballet dancer. That never happened. A good thing too, I think. And that's why I didn't start really tap dancing before I was almost 16. I was 15 something. I started tap dancing. First half of the year, it was like a really brain killer me. I had a headache after every class. This was hard. And then you reach a certain point where it turns into a passion, or you quit, right? That's what most people do. Either you come to a point where, okay, this is not for me, you quit, or something clicks and you're like, oh, I love this. So after that point, my teacher, Gri, that a lot of people knows, she said, oh, you should come to Barcelona. I was like, nah, I'm on vacation with my parents in France. And then when I was there, I was just like, okay, there's a train. Let's do it. So I went 3 days and I absolutely fell in love with it. I met all the wonderful people of Barcelona. I don't think actually I met Estefanía yet. No, I didn't the first time. But Ivan, Luro, all of these people, and we had such a lovely time. And I was just like, I love this. I love the art. I love the people. I love everything about this. I fell in love, like super crush. And after that, I just kept going. This is something I want to do. I was passionate about it. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to see more. I wanted to do more. And that's how I got into teaching. Like somebody asked me, can you substitute my class? Can you start teaching here? It was like a slow process, but I had more and more opportunities, and it was put in different shows. I always loved musicals and stuff too. In Norway, it was never a trend of being tap dancing in musicals before maybe the last 7-8 years. I was so annoyed at a certain time, like, why aren't they showing tap dancing as in on Broadway? You know, you have really good tap dancers. If there was tap dancing, it was a really shitty shuffle, to say. So I was really disappointed of the history of tap dancing in musicals in Norway. Now it's much better. They really, really have done something to understand that, okay, I need to actually learn tap dance too. It wasn't a requirement before. But I just got passionate about it. I wanted people to see this beautiful art form because it wasn't that visible in Norway. It wasn't on TV. It wasn't a part of history. It wasn't really anything. There was a couple of things, like it's been in waves. So in the beginning, it was a lot of things happening. Like Kjersti, who owns the Tikkelto School or founded the Tikkelto School, they did some huge celebrations like in the middle of Oslo Centrum and made it really visible. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. This is so great. It was my first meeting with Kjersti, and I was wearing a penguin costume. Another great fantastic. So, thank God this a bit maybe embarrassing moments as a kid or like a youngster doing tap dance. Thank God for them, because it really made me see why I love it. So never waste these kind of opportunities because you think it's lame or whatever. I'm not saying be a sellout, but good things are going to come from these awkward jobs. Trust me. I mean, I've been on television as a P. I've been on television as a penguin, and all after the age of 17. It wasn't like the coolest, I was an awkward teenager. It wasn't the coolest at the time, but now, thank God I did this job, because it brought me into the community, it brought me into the tap dance, and it brought all these wonderful people to me. So I'm glad I didn't I'm too cool to be on TV with a hat that goes like this, There's pictures of that too. Yes. I will do a collection one day.
Yeah, please share it with us.
So yeah.
I have a Kit Kat question, and then there. I think it's interesting. Like, even people has the passion, how to make it to the business. I think we're lucky because we had the opportunities to do that thing and to get involved. But maybe there's people that don't have this opportunity, even they have the passion. Then maybe something interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think there's.
Oh, you go.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's an interesting thing in terms of like.
But not now. Like you.
What?
You need to answer first how you started.
Yeah, I weave it together.
That's an embarrassing moment. That is too embarrassing to talk about. I put all out there. Now it's your turn.
I don't think. Let me see. I don't think I have any like crazy tap dance costume moments.
Out. Put him out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll see you guys. So like my first tap dancing gig outside of dance school, recital, doing all that, my first actual paid tap dancing gig was with Savion. Like he was doing a residency in DC. The group was called the DC Crew. Bakari Wilder, Vincent Bingham, Joe Webb, Chloe Arnold, like lots of people were in this, all folks from the Washington DC area. And I was 11, 10. I was really young. And I remember getting a paycheck from it. And I'm like, whoa, this like, you can do this? Like, you can go on a stage? Because I've been going on a stage for a very long time, but you go on a stage and then a check comes after? You're like, this is really interesting. But growing up in that context, when I started teaching at Broadway Dance Center, there was a line that everybody used to say. It's like a new student comes in the room and they say, well, who should I take from? And everybody says, well, you should take from everybody, because then you know how to learn from everybody and you get everything. And I grew up in the opposite context. Like, I grew up with people saying, no, you learn from only that person or only that person, and don't listen to these other people, because I'm like, it's very, very different context, right? But then you go out and you try and get a gig, You're like, you don't know anybody. Because you've only been working with these people, and if they don't call you, like, that's it. There's no other work unless you make it, unless you try it, you figure out a way to kind of put yourself out there in a way that people will see. And so I think it's interesting, or it has been interesting for me to see the shift in the tap dance world at large, where people go to festivals and they take all the classes from everybody, and they come out no, we will not be making up any costume context on Halloween. That was we've got to run this show through Halloween so I can come in costume.
Yeah. Best costume wins. And you can send in contributions to us, so you're a part of it.
Right.
Challenge.
Oh man, yeah. So that, I think that's just been a very interesting thing, because in industries at large, right, there are two things that you're going to have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with being of value for many people who are on the hiring side, right? You can teach tap, great. Can you teach jazz or hip hop or like something that you don't really know? And you have to hold on for yourself what you're willing to do or not do, right? Because the questions are going to come because the people who are hiring don't have a context. Most of the people don't have a context. So I can tell you how many times I've heard a dance studio owner ask someone who may or may not be a hip hop dancer if they can teach a hip hop class, right? And only recently, on account of everything that's been going on, have I been able to witness like teachers saying, I really don't think I can do that, right? Because I really haven't trained in that style, or I'm not comfortable being in a position of authority for that information. And then you have to figure out, okay, well, what information do you have that you feel like you can be in a position of authority for, at least for the local audience that you have access to, or that you would be teaching. So that's one thing that you kind of have to figure out, like, how broad is your value set for the industry, for the market that you're going out into. You know, someone like if you look at the music industry, someone like Prince, like, he could play every musical instrument well. Guitar, bass, drums, sing, piano. And you're like, okay, of course he's gonna have a solid career. Like, if you can do all that, you're gonna find some place to work. Because if they don't need a drummer, you can be the bassist. If they don't need a bassist, you can be the guitarist. If you don't need a guitarist, you can be the pianist, and you can sing background or lead vocals, doesn't matter. You'll get a gig, right? That's a mindset to use. The other mindset to have, well, if you're in that mindset, I worked with a musical director, a pianist once, and he said, we were speaking to a group of college kids, and they were asking us about our career trajectories, and the pianist that I was working with at the time said, you know what, I'm different than Andrew. Like, whatever gig comes to me, I say yes. I don't care. You want me to play like whatever kind of music, I can play it. You want me to arrange whatever kind of tune, I can do that. Just pay me. It's cool. No problem. Right? He said, but Andrew actually has something that he wants to say. So he kind of has to do that and can't really do other things. And so there becomes, if you feel, and this is not for everybody, right? But if you feel like there's something specific that you have to say within the context of this craft, and you want it to be said on a commercial stage, then you have to care about that voice and that particular statement in a way that's different than if you go out and you do everything. Right? And I think like you can go out and do everything so that you can fund the thing that you have to say, right? There is that relationship, but I think it's
if you do that, you kind of know that this is a means to the goal or to the end, in a way. So I think maybe if you really want to be in this business and do these kind of things, it's important for you, as Andrew said, to know what you want to do. Like if you know that I want to teach, make a plan. Like in any other profession, they sit down and actually make a business plan of how to do things, and that can be even smart for us. If you just know that I have passion for this, I want to do this, then sit down and figure out what is the top things that are important for you and how can I get there. And it doesn't mean that this plan has to be set in stone. This plan can change whenever, but just so you kind of have some rules to follow that will take you to your goals. Not everything is spread out and you just like, I can do everything. Because then along the way, you will lose track of whatever you want to do and maybe end up being a barista instead, right? Just because you feel like things are not happening.
It's mission creep.
Yes.
Right? It's like you start with one way and you're like, oh, but there's this thing over here. And oh, but there's this thing also over here. And then all of a sudden you're doing like all these things. Yes. And there actually isn't enough time in the day. Right? One thing that industry does really, really well is they put a dollar amount. They put like literal dollars on every hour. And so if you can figure out what your hour is worth, then or what, forget what it's worth, because you're human and human life is priceless and all that. What you need your hour to be worth so that you can pay your bills. Like start there.
I think actually this kind of can touch this topic a bit.
Yeah. So we just went through a situation where when lockdown started occurring in various places around the world, everybody went online and they went online for free. Right? And so you had tap classes like all the time being taught that nobody had to pay for. And there's the question, right? How do you, is that a reflection of valuing your time? Is that a reflection of needing to access your audience in a time where your audience can't come to you? And you know that they might have financial hardship, so like whatever it is that you can do to get to them. Notice it didn't last that long. Like some people are still doing free stuff, but it lasted maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And then you started to see donate what you can, or $5 classes, or $10 classes. And like I can tell you from a institutional standpoint, if you saw a class that was for free coming from like a dance studio, it's more likely that that dance studio was actually still paying the teacher, but the class was coming out for free, right? Then if it's coming from an individual and somebody says, well, I'm just going to teach for free and you can pay me what you want, right? Because it's different mechanics that happen when you're not doesn't have to be an employee, but even just a contractor for a business, or if you're out there on your own. And depending on where you are, I don't know necessarily what the rules are in Europe, but in the States, many people who are out there on their own also have a business entity, right? Which they're like self-employed.
Yes.
And so they have some protections against liability and against like things that happen in the market. So your person are not completely exposed. I'm not a lawyer, and this isn't legal advice, but like this is things that you see, and it's very, very common. So you have to treat your career in a different way than you treat the craft work. And sometimes that's really, really hard for an artist. Like, you're so poured in and you love the things so much, and you're like, I just, you see somebody who has equal passion, and you're like, I just want to give this to you. You're like, nah, I don't know. Like, wait, like if you have 10 other students who are paying, maybe you can do one, and maybe that's your ratio, and that ratio always stays. But that goes back to this idea of a business plan, which is basically saying, how do I make this much money so that I can pay these bills, and where can I do that? How can I, with the value, with the assets that I have, with the skills that I have, where can I do that? Does it mean that I need to have like 5 theater shows a year? Or does it mean that I have to teach 20 hours a week? Like, what is that? And every market's different.
But I also think you have to consider something in any type of craft like we're doing, that when an artist asks you for a pay, it's not just for the hour that you're there. You're paying for 25 years of investing in this art form to becoming so good that you can proudly stand there and say that this is what I do. So you're literally paying for, I mean, in tap dance, there's no education. So when you hire a teacher that is a top notch, you have to remember that this teacher is actually kind of expensive because he has the curriculum that he has. You're not paying for somebody who learned to tap dance yesterday. You're paying for knowledge. So that's also something that has to be calculated in this sense.
Well, and that can go back, and it might be interesting, particularly in this context, to say, like, because tap dance is an oral tradition and teachers have teachers, right? If you want information about a particular old cat, you should find someone today who was around that old cat, and pay them for an hour just to talk, or just to learn a thing, or just like have specific questions around that. And like, are they looking for you?
It's London, and I'm dying if I have the window closed. It's
So yeah, and that, in doing that, right? And if you're in the position of hiring, in doing that, you support the actual oral tradition, because the old cats would give knowledge to people that they trust in the hopes that that would provide work, right? They limit the scope of what they give so that they can give to the people that they literally want to support. Because the old cats didn't really have a way of hiring folks, but they did have a way of saying, if you like what I do, you should hire this person. And making that connection. And that's not to put anybody else out of a job, because everybody has a teacher. And so if you're clear about who your teachers are and what you've learned from them, then that can help. It can help kind of connect the two things. I don't know. You're quiet.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
What do you think about this? Since the question was, I will bring it up again. Since the question was like,
we're skipping questions or not?
Did I skip something?
I don't know. I'm lost in the conversation. Like I say, like a lot of things of vegetables and
but,
mosquitoes and things.
Like how? What about the people who's giving or gave free tap classes? Like, what kind of purpose was that, and what effect does it have on the community in a way? I mean, what I see on internet is people who are giving free classes is people who wants exposure, who doesn't necessarily have a career yet. This was the perfect opportunity for them to show that this is what I can do, because it's much easier to be exposed on media than to go to a studio and you have to bring in students and they don't know what they want. But here you actually see it and they can like, okay, I like this. So that's one reason of doing like free classes. But like the business side of giving free classes, I think a lot of the people also who did free classes was like Andrew says, that there's actually a studio paying them and they're doing something to give the students that already paid for some classes something. And the easiest way to do it is kind of portray it as a free class, even though people has paid for that class at the end of the day.
Well, and free, if you're in a situation where, you know, you don't necessarily have an audience yet, you're cultivating kind of the people that you want to reach, doing something for free is an investment in the business. Right? So you're saying, I'm going to take 10 hours and whatever money, like literal cash, it would take for you to do a thing. You go and you do the thing, you hope people show up, and then you have a way of staying in touch with those people and being in communication so that the next thing that you do, the next time that you do a thing, maybe you're charging $5 and maybe you have a guest or, you know, whatever, but you now have a list of 50 people or 75 people or 100 people that are your people that now begin to follow you because they like the way that you present things. This is very new, right? This kind of audience development thing has only happened in the past 20 years because of the internet and because we, like, every individual has access to potentially a very large audience, right? And the way that industries would look at metrics, so say I'm a musician and I want to approach a record label, right? So that they can record my record and they can put my record out. Nowadays, they will, instead of only looking at your demo, right, and listening to what it is that you do, or only seeing that, oh, like you have 100 people coming to your local shows, that's great. They now look at like how many likes you have on Facebook and how much engagement you have on Instagram, because all that stuff is measured. Right?
I have a love-hate relationship to that, because how many likes doesn't mean that you're good. I'm sorry. It's like,
it means that you're playing the algorithm.
Exactly. It means that maybe you're amazing at sharing your content and asking your family to like it.
And that's the business, right? Like that's the actual business, right? Which is why I have to have a line. Like there's like the business and then there's the craft. And it's like they feed off each other. But I think, at least in my experience, the industry, the business feeds off the craft, not always vice versa. Right? So you have to know that your time working on the stuff that you want to work on, whether that's listening to music or learning new rhythms or learning new steps, has to be protected. And then you're going to take that stuff and you're going to put that in the market. And the market's going to eat it up. They're going to say, that's great. Or they're going to say, that sucks. Like, come with something else. Like, you have no idea. And then you're going to go back to the woodshed and you're going to like work on something else. And then you're going to go back to the market. Diane Walker tells an awesome story of Lon Chaney when he was in Black and Blue, that he would come to the theater early with a towel around his neck and go to the stage, and he'd say, "I have to work off that Broadway rust." And you're like, Broadway rust? Like, you're doing 7 shows a week. And the context is, yeah, it's 7 shows, but it's 7 of the same thing. And so if you're an improviser, if you're someone who wants to have like, bam, control over the choices, we have a very like active show today. We got
ambulances and explosions. Oh.
Fireworks here. That's the thing.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I'll stay here and keep talking until let me know that you're okay. Like, I don't man. So there's this idea that if the industry is totally fine with you doing the same thing if they like it over and over and over and over and over again. And if you have an artistic temperament where like you want to do different things and you want to see what the next thing is, you're going to feel rusty if you're in a situation where you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. So just know that dynamic exists and that you're going to have to find a way to navigate that.
That's a lot to think, like knowing who you are. But ta-da! I think there's other questions that we skip. That's fun. Like where the name "cat" in this context comes from, anyway. And we have vegetables. I think we lost something.
Wait, what?
I'm not sure.
I think the question about cat is because of my language. Because
Okay,
I say all cats a lot.
Maybe it's that.
What is? Yeah. So there is tap dance land came up alongside jazz, right? And there is, if you hang out with jazz cats, there's kind of a slang, like a language, a shorthand language that they use quite often. And it goes back, if you listen to recordings of Cab Calloway, this idea of jive talk, or like it's like a subculture language. So cats is basically shorthand for a person. It's normally representative of a person who knows a thing. So like a cat would be somebody who like really is in the know, really knows what they're doing. Like an old cat is somebody who's experienced. They haven't just kind of like bopped along. They've lived a life. There's context for like guys being called cats and ladies being called kittens. I'm not so down for that, but that happens. Other language is that's in the same realm is like if you ever hear somebody say "you dig," as in do you get it, like do you understand, or I dig that, like I like that. So there's an old line from Lester, I think it was Lester Young, who says, I don't like being dug while I'm digging. What is going on over there?
It's a fest outside, so not here with Estefanía.
It's here. It's Spain, that thing.
Fireworks.
Oh, okay. Fireworks. Celebration, not like anything bad. Okay.
No. Just
You're awfully calm for that kind of noise. There's a lot of kind of like subculture language that I came up around, and I just really enjoy it. It's very, very hip. So yeah.
Cool. People is quiet today. It's great.
That is not the language of the industry, though. Like, you wouldn't
No,
want
no,
to.
no.
You would not find anything about cats or digging or being dug in a contract at any point in time. Like, don't. Yeah.
So guys, feel free to ask any business related questions if you have any. Like, go ahead.
Lingo.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Lingo. Language.
That's short for language.
Right. There you go.
Bingo.
Just level.
Not bingo. Lingo.
Bingo. Okay, sorry.
Bingo. It's the name of a dog in a song. B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O. No, that's okay. That's American.
Fireworks.
I'll be over here in the corner if you need me.
Crying like. Oh, I hate the business part. Like, boom.
Yes.
That's not a question. Okay, but yeah, it's true. Either you love it or you hate it. It's like that, but it's something you have to deal with. It's like if you want to do this, you have to deal with it. Promoting yourself, it's a part of the business side. We live in a society that we have to promote ourselves, give ourselves exposure, and it can be on social media that we already talked about. Like it's a big part of it these days, especially now in the lockdown. It's been a big part, like to keep active, show that you're still doing this and this, to get followers, to get likes, because this will bring you students in the studio, or it will bring people to your show. So I know that some people see promoting yourself as bragging. It is not. You're just showing what you got. And it's easier when you already have a name and you don't kind of have to think that much about these things. But you can even see in the tap business, people who's the top dogs, they're still promoting themselves, or they hire somebody to do it for them.
Yeah.
So it's two different things. But I mean, if you get over this kind of self-consciousness that this is not actually bragging about yourself, but this is just showing, look, this is what I got to offer. This is what I can do. Come and be my student or come and see my show. Then you take a big step into the business by already doing that.
I can talk about this.
Go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, because I understand this thing. When I start on the business here, I don't know, maybe it was the situation, it was a small community, it was Barcelona, like long time ago. We didn't need to do that thing, to promoting or something. Like the audience was in same space. We didn't have still like internet and things to promote that way. And I feel my path on this was like really easy. I was just like going and things were happening and like, okay, I'm chilling. But I
have sorry, Estefanía, I have a comment about exactly that. When I say promoting, it doesn't mean that you have to do something on social media. It means in general exposure, because you need exposure to actually get jobs. You cannot be within your four walls and not be seen by anybody. That's what I mean. I just took social media as an example. So you had some kind of exposure even though you didn't have social media, right?
Yeah, the thing is like, it is possible to survive with this thing, but it's not true. Like I did it, but I think it's because was the specific situation here. But I remember people like moving out of Barcelona, bringing that like happy flower way that we have here, building the things, and coming back and saying like, no, it's not working like this. Like we're living on a bubble in Barcelona. Like, yeah, sure, we were on a bubble. It was like too much easy. Once the community in Barcelona grew, this bubble exploded. and suddenly we needed to do this promotion and these things, and I'm so bad at this thing. Okay, sorry. I didn't learn it in the beginning, then because I was doing like this easy thing, like I was like chilling and just doing the thing, like, you want to do this, yes, and this, yes or no, like it was.
Yeah, it
was easy. Sorry, it was like 5 words. Then I understood, like, you need to do this thing, but it needs to come like from yourself and the way that it's good for you, but still doing this thing. And I'm not like, I like bragging, promoting. I'm so bad at this thing, but I'm trying to do it just simply like being activo.
Yeah.
And posting the thing that I think for me are good for me to share. Boom.
It is.
And yeah, I think you need to find the balance in this promoting and not going like extremes. Like, you don't need to be like only doing promoting with no content. But if you have content, like, you will find the way to share it and the way that is kind for you to share.
Mm-hmm. Like, it can be as easy as showing up to the park on the jams and stuff like this, and just being there, that's exposure. Like, you go to events, you're there, you go to the jams, you go to different kind of things, right?
Yeah. It's about, so if you're just starting out, a lot of it is about people. Like, people have to know that you're I just come back to the same thing. That's all. I say the same thing always, and that's, get hired for it. It's nice. So there is this idea that if you want to pursue a particular thing, you have to show up where people who are pursuing that thing show up. Right? So if you want to produce shows, go find where the producers gather. If you want to direct shows, go find where the directors hang out. You don't have to, like, that doesn't have to be your family, but that will be your colleagues, the people that you know are working in that space, the people that you're going to ask questions of, the people that might give you some advice and begin to mentor you in some way, shape, or form in that pursuit, right? Because every artistic endeavor, and producing, I believe, is an artistic endeavor, has, like, they have waves, they have like intergenerational knowledge that happens, right? And if you get mentored by a particular person in that field, you're going to, like, there are other relationships that will open up for you because you are now connected with this person. There are particular skills that you will be exposed to because of the way that particular person works. And it's the same way like teaching. My model for how classes are supposed to happen was Savion and Gregory. It was like the workshop model. So when I started really teaching, I had taken dance class in a dance studio. In a dance studio before, but I thought every teacher just walked into the room and like made up the stuff that they were going to teach that day, because that's what I saw people that I trusted do. Come to find out, like, no, that's not the normal thing. The normal thing is you have a thing or two prepared, and then if you get through that, maybe you have to make something up on the spot, but like there's a lesson plan of some sort for that week. And so, knowing the expectations of the person that's hiring you will help you get to that spot. right? If you already have some sort of clout on account of who you've been with and kind of work experience, then maybe your navigation might be a little different. But in general, somebody's going to hire you and they're going to have very specific expectations of the work that they want to see come. And so you kind of have to show up for that. And yeah, I mean, I still improvise on the spot when I teach. But that's, you know, I've had situations. I was teaching for a convention once, and I don't, you know, in a place where you have like 100 and 150 kids in the room and they're all trying to tap dance. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not using music. And the person who hired me, like the owner of the convention, came in, this was after my first class, and was like, you need to use music. And I was like, I wasn't planning on it because I want to hear all the, you know, I want them to hear what they're doing. And they're like, no, you need to use music. And I was like, oh, okay. And you're like, all right, I haven't gotten my check yet, so I'm going to use music. I'll use it for the warm-up. Like, I'll split the difference. I'll use it for the warm-up, and then for the combo, I won't. But that's the thing. And it's like, you're gonna have to navigate that stuff. Right? Like Iselin, you were saying to have a list of all the things that you want to do. I would also offer to have a list of all the things that you will not do.
Mm.
Right? Because there are going to be so many offers at some point that having a clear line of like, this I will not do, this I will not do, this I will not do. That way, even if you're on a gig and somebody's like, hey, would you do? And you're like, no, I am not going to do that. And you're clear, and it's like very, very solid. Because the industry is very like, oh, we can get this person to do that. They're cool. Like it's just pressure.
And yeah, but if you also have figured out this mindset that you're talking about, Andrew, before you actually start to go out of your studio or out of the training, right? Think of it as networking. All the things that you do to network, to get in contact with these people, that is actually promoting yourself. And if you then know what you want to do and what you can offer while networking, you are already 5 steps ahead of the people who just comes into the room and think, I want to tap dance. That's it, right? Because you have a goal, you have a site. And this is a big part, not social media necessarily, but this, just going into the room, know what you can offer, and talk to the right people. You're already pretty far off promoting yourself and making a name, of being seen, of being heard, and getting the exposure to do what you want. Because then if this person that you go inside a Smalls jazz club for one of the jams, and your goal is not necessarily to go there and jam, but you know who the people in the room are, you know what you can do. You cannot sit in the back and just say that I was there on social media after. That's not promoting yourself. You go and talk to the people that you know are important, and maybe they are going to push you to do the jam or whatever and get the exposure that you need. But still, you need to have a intention of what you're doing outside your own house or your own studio after the training. Like, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah, and the more, I would say, the more focused, the better. Right? The growth and the connections and the relationships can be like very specific, or the journey can be very specific, and it can be really organic. You're gonna, I've experienced both, right? I've experienced walking into a room and being like, okay, I need to talk to this person and this person before the night is over. That's my goal, right? And I've also experienced like going to a hang and dancing and meeting someone and being like, can we work together? Because that like that moment felt really good. Can we do that again? you know, there was a band that I played with, an old time band called the Cangelosi Cards. They don't exist anymore, but all the players are still playing in different areas. I went just to listen. Like, I went one night just to listen. Turned out the trumpet player who was in the band that night, I knew from like 3-4 years prior. And I was like, hey, can I sit in on a tune? And he's like, let me talk to the band leader. So I talked to the band leader, and the band leader's like, yeah, sure, we'll figure it out. He'd never played with a tap dancer before. So I sat in, I played, and afterwards he's like, listen, man, any night you want to come by, come by. I'm like, cool. So every week for the next couple of weeks, I came by, and then next thing you know, like, they would start to call me on special dates, right? Dates that they wanted, like the thing that the tap dancer does. Okay, so it was like a New Year's gig or a big concert gig, and they would normally play for dances. So other people would be dancing in the ballroom, and I'd be like an extra percussionist for them. And that was really organic, right? Now, I was not trying to be like a member of their band or have that as my career. I just really enjoyed the music. And so the amount of time that I was like, I limited the amount of time that I was able to give them, and knew that I had to do other things as well. Right. But it was something that, you know, 6 years playing old time jazz live does something to your craft work. And so that part is very much still in me, and I'm thankful for those experiences. But it wasn't like, that's the thing that I want to do.
Absolutely.
More questions. Bring more questions.
Yes.
There's
we have
one here.
Yeah.
Ooh. I think I give, maybe it's like 1/5, 1/8, something like that. It's been more recently because like less of everything else is happening, and more people are talking. But yeah, it's really only been recently that I've found the language that I like to talk about tap history. Because everybody else is, you know, when I get asked to talk about tap history, the way I've been approached about it before has been, all right, can you tell me what year it was invented, who invented it, and where it was invented? Like all the factual things. And I'm like, no, and no. Because I wasn't there, I didn't know the guy, and I didn't live in the place. So you know, go to the books. You can find it in the books. And people want, most people don't have time to do all the reading, so they want somebody else who's done the reading so that they can, you know, they can glean off of that work. And I'm more interested in reestablishing the oral tradition than like really reestablishing it, than like promoting the institutional memory thing, because the institutional memory is there. You can go to a library, you can get the book, like you can buy it off of Amazon. There's tons of ways that you can get that, but you're not going to be able to get the, like, who was your teacher? What was your teacher like? How did that show up in their dancing? Like, you're not going to be able to get that. And it's taken me actually a really long time to find the language that I can say, yes, I can give you a tap history talk, and this is how I'm going to do it. Yeah. It's a good question.
Yeah. Here's a little lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned before, like, you talk on classes, you explain things, you engage on conversations. but not that way. It's different.
Yeah, it's different.
Thanks to this.
Yeah.
Opportunities.
True that. Seize the day.
Yeah, I think it slowed everything down enough that people are okay to like stop and listen. And
Great.
it's good. I don't know. Like everybody's gonna.
Everybody's thinking, oh,
Yeah, they're gonna have a different idea.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah.
I remember having like a conversation with myself on this.
Really? How did that go?
It was in the moment I was creating the show.
Okay. What was the show? People who know.
Like before that happened to me, like before, like, okay, you can do a show. I remember like how this thing went. Like David is the organizer in Italy, and I was in Italy on June, I think, and he told me I want to do like a performance on December on the festival, and I just turned like, I can do that, and he's like, okay, yeah. And it was like only like 4 months before December or something like this. Okay. Once I start to do the things, I was like, I want to do this thing, but maybe this thing, maybe they will not like it or it's too much, and then I need to do something more like softer, because thinking I have an audience, and I think, yeah. Oh, he was there. I remember he was there.
I showed it when you were talking, but you were looking somewhere.
Andrew, and you remember I was crying the whole night after this thing, like the whole night. I didn't stop crying. But yeah, I remember the process while building the show and thinking, I should do that or I should do that. And finally, I decided, like, I will do the things that I want to do. If they don't like it, I don't care. But it's just an option. It's so scary because maybe it will not work. And it's so difficult to make it work. Then maybe I need to switch something to get it to the market. I decide to start like, I don't care. I just go there. Let's see what happens. And once you start, maybe you fix like small things to put it in the market. But I remember the moment I was thinking all these things.
But I think what you're saying here is very good, because sometimes you decide to kind of target the market and think, okay, what will be popular? What will the audience like? What will most people engage in? And other times you just think, screw this, I'm going to do what I want this time. I think both are okay. That's why you got art, right? Because sometimes the market pressure you into doing one thing, and other times it just pressures you into doing exactly what you feel like. That's how you get new ideas, new shows, and some really awkward things too.
Like, there's always there's always the pressure of like, will they like me? I think.
Yeah.
And if I say this thing, is everybody just going to be like, what's the reaction that I hope for, and what's the reaction that I fear? Right. Sometimes some artists will say, well, I just want a reaction. Like, I don't care what it is. I just want a reaction. Some artists are like, I want to be loved. I have to be loved. Like, nobody can hate the thing. If they hate it, like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think every artist, I don't know. Most artists that I've heard stories about have had a way of testing, like trying to deal with that relationship with their audience. Their stories that comedians, very, very well-known comedians, will go to some dive bar somewhere and test out jokes before putting it on a big stage. Right? So what we see as the 1 hour special or the half hour like television special is actually material that they've done for like 3 years, touring around in these little joints that have like 25 people in them, right? And so that there used to be a lot more of this, the ability to grow material organically and to say, yeah, so this is the tune that I'm working on right now. I've got 5 nightclub gigs. I'm going to work this up with these bands. I'll do that for about 6 months, and then maybe it just stays in my repertoire. And now, like, there are very few nightclub gigs. Like, where are you gonna go? Now you do a festival gig, you have 1 shot, and that video's online, and that's it. And you've never met the band except the day of. You're like, what? Like, how? I don't know. Like, the actual. So I mean, like, the actual ability to develop work organically in front of audiences so you can see what works and what doesn't feels cut. It feels like shortcut. So you have to go from like 0 to, I'm going to do 20 minutes for an audience of 500, and that's your first outing as a choreographer. And it's not, you're like, wait, what? And it's a big lift. That's a big lift. That is not an easy thing. Because then you're also in charge of, like, you have that relationship with the producer or whoever put you on. Like, they have to like it. The audience has to like it. They have to like that the audience liked it, right? All those relationships are happening in the same time and place. And it is, it takes okay, so finding opportunities and ways within the context of your economy to test things out is a good thing. And if you can test things out while also getting paid, that is better. Right? So a small like local celebration is happening, do a performance. Like, get 5 minutes on that stage to just do a thing and see what the people do. If they like it, great. If they don't like it, great. Now you go back and you try it again. Maybe you do 3 things like that over a year to develop your voice and, like, the people that you want to work with, and you start building the thing. But don't feel like you have to go from I'm teaching as my way of kind of getting a paycheck to I'm going to put on a full-length show, and, like, we're just going to jump. We're going to go and we're going to jump and do that. It's possible. It's just very heavy.
But I tend to find also other things in the industry that can influence your work. Like, on several occasions, it happens that you get invited, or like, we want a tap dancer here, but oh, by the way, you cannot tap on the floor. This happens all the time. And if you have your company or whatever, it's like, okay, what to do now? So I tend to find myself, like, almost 90% of the gigs that you get in Norway are like this.
Oof.
Like, can you bring your own floor type of thing? And in that way, also, you start thinking, okay, what kind of choreography could you do there? Okay, we got 3 small floors that we can spread around in the room, these kind of things, So these restrictions too, that I don't think were that much back in the days when tap dance was more popular, tends to shape the type of work you do too. Like, how to do your work. You cannot use the space as a normal dance, even if you want to. So that, and also that kind of is like the same category as you say, that you meet the musician on the day and that's it, you have no relation with them. You don't know if they can play what you want or the other way, if it fits. So these kind of things also shapes the work that you do a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, Estefanía, but I had to find a solution for a portable floor that fit in my car in New York City, so that I wouldn't have to rent a truck every time, right? And so the size of the gig board that I use is sized so that it fits in the trunk of my tiny car, right?
Oh.
And that's just the limitation. And I could fit, let's see, I can fit like 6 of them in the trunk and then 2 in the back seat. So that means I can have 8 dancers, right?
Wow.
And that's anything more than that, I'm like, sorry, you can't do the gig, you know. And it's legit, like, and it changes the way that the pieces get built. You know, my company had an entire repertoire for those floors, so we could pull 20-25 minutes on those floors. Like, don't need to move around in the same way that like other dances, other dancers would want to move around. Even other dances that I created, like, can't.
Yeah, for now I'm still dancing on the floors of the theater. I still don't have my own floor, but it's a big thought. That is like, I need to reach that thing. That is like, don't poke there. Just
Yeah,
wait.
it's,
Yeah, it's a thing.
it's all economy, right? Theaters started using Marley or painting their stage because it's more economical than to replace the floor every time, right? And wood floors have gotten continually expensive, like more expensive. So, oh well, then we'll use a. There was a theater in Ithaca, New York, upstate New York. I used to produce a festival there, 3-day festival, and it was an old vaudeville house. And on the stage, there were 3 sections. All the way upstage in the back, you saw the original floor, like the original wood floor from the 1920s. And then in the middle, they had redone the floor, and so it was like a different width of wood. Like the wood slats were thinner, because that's what happens. Like thicker, then thinner, and then in the front section, there was like just 4x8 sheets of plywood, and it was all painted black because that's what it was. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, to see how the stuff moved, and for a tap dancer, like, wider floorboards are going to change the sound compared to thinner floorboards. And then you have wood, and then you have like something that's kind of like wood but not really hardwood. Like, everything changes. And so then your dancing has to change if you want to be on that floor, or you have to bring your own. Right? And it's it's a thing. It's like, it's not a it yeah. And tap dancing isn't alone in that world, but it shows up there.
I remember when we put the show on this past October, it was a thing. Like, we did the show before in Luthier. That means we have like 8 meters long place to work on that, and we go to 4.5. That was not enough space for us. Then the last piece, that like it's all slides crossing side to side, was not that thing. Like, we adapt the thing, but you have 2 options. You go to the theater, it's not fitting, you can say like, I cannot do that thing here, or if you want the gig, you fix it, and we fix it. It's not the same, but still you get the thing to do. Options, like decisions, you need to take decisions depending what you want to do.
Yeah. Who is there's an artist, Pink, the pop artist? Pink? think.
Yeah, the singer.
The singer. Yeah.
So if you look at, I heard an interview from her once where she was like, you get in, you take the gig, you do a year of like doing performances that are only to track, right? And then you have an audience, and then the next year that you go out, you can take a 3-piece band. And then your audience grows, and the next year you go out, you can take a 7-piece band. And the next, it's like sometimes, so you have to know, like, okay, for me to go out and do the thing, what has to stay the same? Right? What's the minimum requirements? Can I adjust the piece because the space is smaller? Yes. Can I do all the work without all the fancy lighting? Yes. Can I do all the work on carpet? No. Right? And having that is really important.
Yes.
And I think it's important to say at some point in this talk that, like, teaching and performing, live performance, or like making your own shows or your own choreography, may not be the only ways to make money as a tap dancer. Right? So there are many tap dancers who are now kind of moving into the music space. There are opportunities for tap dancers on television. It might be stuff that you're like, I don't know if I really want to take that gig, but there are gigs, and the stuff is there where even maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it wasn't that common. So feel free to
Be creative.
Yeah. And find the stuff that resonates with you, that you're like, oh, I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this. And you put, like, it's like you make your own salad. All the stuff that you do equals the meal. Like, you can't just eat cucumbers and be full. Like, it's not, maybe, but it's a snack. It's not a meal. So, yeah, I think that's important.
And I think, because we're already reaching like 2 hours. So to sum up a bit, like what we talked about today, what is important if you want to be in this business and you don't like the business side, if you can call it that. Like, as we have been talking about, like, find a focus, find a goal, and know what you want to do and what you need to do to get there. If you go to school and you study, for instance, other types of art like photography or these kind of things, you actually have to write a business plan. This should be something that tap dancers also should do. And in that business plan, it is everything that has to do with how can you be visible, how can you sell the stuff that you want to do, because you need to earn money on this, different ways of reaching a goal, different stages to reach that goal. You can find so many. If you search for how to write a business plan, you can write that and see the suggestions that come up and write that for tap dancing, because everything is relatable, everything. So if you're really unsure about this side, like, if you tap dancing is not just go on stage and do your thing, it has to do with all these kind of things. You cannot take away one of the parts just because you don't like it. If you chose tap dancing, you have to do these things too. So I would suggest that, go ahead and actually sit down and write yourself a business plan if you want to do this. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's my suggestion for the day.
Yeah, there's also something like when you're scared of something, it's because you don't know enough things of this something. Then if you're scared of the business side, like, check how people is doing, or maybe you need to you do the thing Iselin is saying, like you reach like out of that dancing and what they do, or you go to somebody that went through this thing and you ask like how you did it.
Yep.
And there's lots of ways to do it, and you figure out which one that you like.
Yeah.
You don't have to like every type or every way. You find the way that is comfortable for you.
Yeah, you can track, like nowadays you can go to Google and you can track the careers of people. Right?
Yes.
You can see Gregory Hines' first couple gigs. You can see like if you go to IMDb, you can find out like when he was on television as a kid, and then the number of years that he kind of stopped doing things, and then when he came back on television and film. And then if you go to the Broadway database, you can see like when he came back from not doing stuff, and he came back to theater first and then television. And then if you go to the music side, you can see that when he was not doing stuff, he actually cut an album. So it's like you can do the research and find a model. Now, boom. I don't think
I really don't. I will ask for the last one.
I think we remember what it is that you don't want to do. Make sure that that's part of like your plan. Your like, I'm going to go out into the world, and this is what I would not like to be a part of, because that stuff is going to show up. And also, like, just realize that as many models as you find, as many things as you go and say, oh, this person does it like this, maybe I can do that. At the end of the day, you are going to be your own model. Like, you are going to find the things that you like to do that are available for payment and that the industry desires and that you fit in, and that's great. And go and do that.
I will add one thing to what Andrew said, and that is when you talk about the things that you don't want to do, I suggest also have a bit of open mind and don't be a kid that says, I don't like tomatoes, and he never tried tomatoes. You know? Figure out why you don't like or why you don't want to do that thing. So don't say that you don't want to do that thing because you're scared of it. Okay? Just like have a bit of open mind and, test it or find out why you don't want to do that thing, so you're actually sure that it's not just a fright that you have or something like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or being stubborn like a kid. I don't know. So yeah. Anyways, so last thing that we need to actually mention is that this was the last talk that is in. Oh my God, I'm sorry. This is the last talk of June.
Tomatoes, mosquitoes.
Yeah, we haven't decided yet, but we want to continue. But we were thinking maybe that once a month or something like this is nice, because now the society is opening slowly. People are getting back to studios and these kind of things. So we haven't decided a day of the week or stuff like this yet. But we would just want to say that we want to continue, but probably not going to do it every week. So we will come with a schedule, and if it's like suddenly 20 things that we need to do as a topic, maybe we do it more often, but we adjust according to you. But this is not the end. We just summer break. No, it's not a summer break either, or I don't know. But we're going to continue, but not so often. So
put that donate link up there too.
What?
Put that donate link up there too.
Yes.
Like boom. Again.
Oh yeah. That's what you meant, right?
Yeah. So this is what helps us do these talks, right? If we have the resources, we can do them more often. Otherwise, we're taking time out of the work that we normally do to bring these to you, and we love it. Like, this is a ton of fun. But we can't do it as often as we have been on account of like work picking back up.
Yes. So
Yeah,
we
it's
will
reality.
find a good time, and we will write down whatever topics you send there or questions you have. So that will be new topics. So please, share with us or in the conversations that we have or on the YouTube link discussion thing that we have.
Ignore.
Whatever you feel like we need to talk about or you're wondering about or want a discussion about, let us know. And we'll collect everything for the talks that we will have in the future.
Also, if we have, for example, like so many topics, we can plan the month. Like maybe this month, because we have all these topics, we will do like this, this, and this. Like
Yes.
if you don't talk, you don't get the answers. Like that's a thing too. Sorry.
Ask the questions.
So,
But yeah,
anything else to mention? We will be back soon. Take care. This was a nice tomato and mosquito talk.
fireworks. Like how you call that? Alarm.
Fireworks?
No, fireworks is me.
Oh, the sirens with me? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an amazing, adventurous talk today.
You're Andrew. You're too bored there. You
Yeah,
have
it's too
nothing.
bright here.
I'm fine. Do not. we are very happy where we are.
That's great.
So yeah. But see you guys soon. Stay safe and keep the questions coming.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Late.